Senate Appropriations Committee will come to order. Today, we're going to have the MoDOT budget presented to us. So, Director, when you are ready, please begin with your opening remarks.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, it's my honor to be, member of the committee. It's an honor to be here to present our budget. I just want to kind of go over a few highlights before we get into the details. When I took over as director, I said we really had 4 priority areas to focus on. First was to deliver the program. Second was to restore the capability of our operations team. Third was to make sure that our folks are safe and the public is safe when they use the system. And then we needed to improve our customer focus. And in those 4 areas, I think this budget really reinforces that and allows us to do that. And I think just a couple of things on each one of those areas. You know, when we talk about the delivering the program, we have had a huge influx of revenue. And a lot of that is a result of you all. And I want to say thank you to the committee. You know, first of all, the legislature raising the fuel tax, or the refundable user fee, as I like to call it, has really made a difference in getting us out of a hole of really managing a decline of the system. And then on top of that, the federal government put in place the biggest federal program they've done in many years. And probably the icing on the cake was the general revenue that really this committee led the effort to put in place to do a lot of projects that we couldn't get to. You know, and that is really all about things like rural minor roads, I-70, I-44, and then a lot of other projects across the state. And so at your place, we put this kind of book together that really highlights all of the general revenue projects, which really is pretty monumental. You know, that's the first time that's ever been done in the history, as far as I know. But we want to make sure that we're respectful of that and that we deliver those projects. So this is kind of an ongoing accountability piece to make sure that we're doing what you have asked us to do. And I can tell you that 44% of all those projects are either completed or under contract. And we've been really working at really light speed to get that done. Certainly the improvement in minor roads is across the state probably one of the most popular things that we've done. Of course, everybody talks about I-70. I just went to a public meeting last night for Project 4 in Columbia. That is moving at light speed. In your place, I also put the kind of the placemat that shows I-70 and I-44. And we're about to, we're in procurement for the big I-44 project around Springfield, and we're going to award that in June. So I think you can see that we're focused on those projects, and not only those, but then our regular funding through the road fund. But we've got to deliver on those because people have an expectation that we do that. So that's kind of number one.
Director, I know you had and if you don't want to do it in my order, it's fine. But
Yeah.
Here just discuss 2 of the projects that I wanted you to state publicly, how they're moving along, et cetera, and you identified both of them. But could you go into a little bit more detail on what it looks like on the timeline that was originally put forth in the legislature? I think I've heard that actually some of the projects are coming in at and below what the bids were, and that may be, or what the guesstimate was going to be. That may be correct or incorrect. But help us go through this placemat and I-44 and
Okay.
the rural roads. I'm going to ask you a little bit about it later, but if you don't
Okay.
mind just doing this right here at the beginning.
I'm happy to do that because it's a good story to tell. So on I-70, we've got about half of the money under contract. So we've got 2 projects in Columbia under contract. We've got the kind of the east end in St. Louis and the west end in Kansas City. And that really encompasses a lot of the really complicated work. You know, that's where we're doing some interchanges and stuff. our estimate right now is we're right on track. You know, a lot of people doubted whether we could do this for the money, and I will tell you that our industry, the contractors and consultants and our team in Missouri has stepped up and provided really great value. I mean, I can't tell you how important that is, and I think one of the other most important things that I highlight so far, not that we've kept anybody else from bidding on it, but every project that's been awarded to date on I-70 has been awarded to a Missouri contractor. And a lot of that was early on. We had meetings with the industry on how to stage that project and how big the packages would be. And I'll tell you, they're producing in the, you know, we've done what we call design build, where we put a fixed price, and that kind of protects us on the upside. So we know we're not going over, because we said, here's how much money we're going to give you. Tell us what you're going to give us for that money. And so we've gotten all new pavement on the projects we've gotten done, not just the third lane. We've got the third lane plus all new pavement, new bridges. We couldn't be more happy. And so I think, you know, we've got another year, a little bit over a year, to get the rest of it under contract. And I'll feel really good when it's all under contract. But right now, I would tell you that it is on track to be on budget and to get way more value, I think, than we thought we would get. So yes, it's really not under budget, but we've gotten more for the money than I think maybe we envisioned in the beginning. And that's really, I think, a testament to our industry, because they have really sharpened their pencil and brought great value to the project. On I-44, we're right in procurement for the big project around Springfield. Certainly we're happy about that. We'll see what kind of value we get on that one. We're going to award that in June. So that one not quite as far along, but you know, the vast majority of that money will be committed with this first project, and we'll know the answer to that in June. So we're very pleased with how that's going.
Okay, good. I want to add one more piece to this for you to discuss. We know that there are people talked about the safety, et cetera, going through all this stuff. And you've talked to me, and then I've heard you speak about it publicly as well. Do you feel like MoDOT partnered with local law enforcement as well as the State Highway Patrol? I've been told that there's been, those partners have been showing up to help as well, a little greater than what happened at the beginning. Can you speak a little bit about it? And then also this one thing that your discussion made me think of it. You remember that, may remember, I think I've told you that my daughter owns a farm right off of I-70, just out of the bottoms on the west side of the Big Muddy on I-70. I-70 or north border. And the wrecks that have happened at the bridge, I know what the rumors are around Boonville, et cetera, but I wondered if you could talk a little bit about if there's anything causing that, or it's just our inattention, because when I drive around in my farm truck, there's an awful lot of people watching movies while they're driving, I think. So.
Yeah, I think we were a little taken aback in the beginning. I mean, we're going to have a lot of construction going on in a lot of places, but the behavior when we first started was really atrocious. I mean, we had people. The commitment we made was to keep 2 lanes open during construction, during peak times, and for the most part, our contractors are working at night a lot. So we've kept 2 lanes open, but they're narrow and they're barriered off, because that's what we got to do to give our workers a safe place to work. And some of the behavior was just amazing to me. I mean, it was tractor trailers going 80 miles an hour through a 55-mile-an-hour work zone. If they will drive the speed limit we asked them to, we wouldn't have near as many problems. But I will say, in recent months, definitely the Highway Patrol has stepped up. We've increased our coordination with local law enforcement. They're stretched, everybody's stretched, but I think we've seen some improvement. But we got to do this for another we're proposing to be done by the end of 2030. So we've got a few more years to go. One of the things I will tell you, though, is we've been tracking this. We've been tracking speed and we've been tracking crashes. And the number of crashes on I-70 is not any different now during construction than it was before. Because one of the reasons that we're doing I-70 is because I-70 had become really unpredictable. And a lot of it's related to crashes. And a lot of that's just because we have so much traffic and so much truck traffic that when something gets snarled up and somebody has a crash, it creates backups. And if you never know, if you're going to St. Louis from here, before construction, would you run into a crash or not? Because if you did, you were going to sit there for 45 minutes. So one of the things this project is going to do is going to make that corridor way more reliable, because we'll have 3 lanes to move people around on. But it kind of even surprised me that the actual number of crashes, the number of serious injuries, and the number of fatalities has not changed before and after construction. What has changed is, since everything is kind of barriers separated, it takes a little longer to clear a crash, and so people notice it more. But there's not like everybody says, oh my gosh, the number of crashes has gone up, double. It is not. It's almost identical to what it was before construction in the places that we have construction. So, but we got to continue to work on that, because, we're going to be in this situation for another few years. And we have quarterly meetings with the Highway Patrol to kind of say, here's what's coming, what kind of resources can you put to this. Their most effective resource is they're putting planes in the air. And, because they can't really be in the work zone because there's just no place to be. So I think the threat of a plane in the air probably is slowing people down as much as seeing a trooper on the side of the road. So we're working on it. We know that it is either perceived and it's causing some issues. So we gotta really continue to keep working on that. What's that?
Roachport Bridge.
Yes.
What?
Done. It's all done. So we have the bridges built, and they're able to carry 6.
I drive across them, but I've certainly had people, and I told you who part of the people are, talk about the eastbound bridge and water puddling at the end of that bridge and cause hydroplaning.
Yeah.
Is that a rumor, or has anybody studied that to find out?
I'm not sure that we have. We'll take a look at that. East end of the
west
westbound.
side of the eastbound. And I thought that's where the majority of the accidents happen. And of
Yeah.
course, speed's always involved, et cetera. But
We'll take a look at that and see if there's
yeah.
if it's a perception or a fact.
Correct.
Yep. We'll do that.
Okay. I'm sorry I stopped
Oh,
you
that's all right.
during your going through your 4
Yeah,
items, but
the second area is really to restore the capability of our operations team. During a lot of the turmoil we had with inability to pay our folks and the pandemic and a lot of other reasons, we were losing people at a rate of maybe 90 a month. And we've turned that around, and a lot of thanks to this committee for, some of the pay increases that happened, and the commission made some changes. So we're in a place where we're net positive on people now. Last year, the budget committee allowed us to have another 100 FTEs for boots on the ground that do the basic work of the department. This year, we asked for another 100. When Brenda does the book, the governor proposed 50. But really, the purpose of that is to do those things that we hear about from you all, from the public. It's what I call the windshield issues. We get to the stuff we have to get to, right? We get to the pothole, we get to safety issue, we get to the signal that doesn't work, but that's all we can do. So this is focused at doing those things that people really expect, right? It's litter, it's deer, it's signs that have been hanging for weeks. It's all those things that your constituents tell you about, that you tell us about. And I think we're making progress on that, but we're still not where we need to be to have the capability in our workforce to do that. And so really, we need to have those boots on the ground, and these are all boots on the ground. These are the people that actually do the work in the communities. And it's made a difference so far. The ability to hire, the budget allowing us to have a few more FTEs. We're going to ask for a few more this year. And we need to keep up, because as we do this work and we add stuff to the system, there are no maintenance-free roads, right? So we have to have the people that'll keep up with all this investment we've made. And so we're on that track. You know, the two things that I would ask in that arena is, you know, consideration of the 100 we asked for. And certainly I know this year pay raises are probably a discussion item that needs to happen. We put forward a pay plan that continues what we've been doing, that has been successful. The governor did not put that in his budget, but certainly we're paying for that with road fund money, and we think we have the capability to do that if you all would see fit to put that forward. But our focus is really to make progress, and it really goes with that last item on customer focus, right? It's kind of capability of our operations team on the ground, making sure that we're focused on those things that customers tell us about and try to get those things fixed. And, you know, the ongoing things, they just keep happening, right? I mean, we can pick up litter, and 2 weeks later, it looks like we did nothing. And that means you just got to have the capability to continually do that. Otherwise, you don't make any progress. So on the safety front, certainly we talked a little bit about the behavior of motorists. You know, we put 3,500 folks on the ground every day that face those people up close and personal. And it would curl the hair on the back of your neck if you were out there on the road and saw what they see. So the ability to make our folks safe takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of equipment, and it takes making sure that we're trained and capable to do that. On the safety side, as it relates to motorists, we're making some progress. So 3 years in a row, we've had a reduction in fatalities, but we still had 911 fatalities last year on the highway. So that's every day, over 2 fatalities every day. So today, tomorrow, the next day. And certainly the road improvements will make a difference. But the big thing that we've got to work on there is behavior. So we've been working on campaigns and things with the patrol to make sure that people do those basic things. And it's pretty simple, right? If you buckle your seatbelt, you don't drive distracted, you obey the speed limit, and you don't drive impaired. And all of those things are a complete challenge every day for people to do for some reason. The statistic that just kind of shocks me is only 11% of people don't wear a seatbelt. But of the fatality crashes, it's almost 60% of the people that die in crashes are unbelted. So it's that 11% that makes up 60% of all the fatalities. So if we could just get them to wear their seatbelt, we could probably reduce fatalities by, 30 or 40%. And such a simple thing to do. So we've got to keep working on those things. We're happy about the reduction year over year, but 900 is still pretty alarming. And a lot of those are victims. It's the innocent people that get hit by the impaired driver or the distracted driver. So we've got work to do there. And then we focus really heavily on making sure that we're customer focused and we're listening to what people are telling us is important. And that includes a relationship with the legislature, with local elected officials, and with the people that pay for what we do. So we've got to make sure we're being very sensitive to that, and I've tried to change that narrative. And so these things that I just talked about really are all related kind of to that as an overarching umbrella. And then really the only other thing that I kind of wanted to highlight for you all is one of the things that was not in the governor's budget was there was a $5 million cut to state transit funding. And while that's maybe not a big deal in the bigger picture of budgets, that is going to have a huge impact, especially on rural transit. And the reason I say that is because we split up that money to 30 transit agencies across the state. And it's by formula, but think about the smallest transit agency that might get $100,000. They're not going to get any. So $100,000 to that transit agency, what they do with that is they match federal funds, and that turns into $500,000. So what may seem like a $100,000 reduction in their budget turns into a $500,000 reduction in their budget. And what that's going to lead to is a reduction in service or buses that don't get bought that are not reliable and things like that. So it's kind of a multiplier big deal that I wanted to highlight to you all before we get into the details. And then lastly, you mentioned minor roads. Over the last 3.5 years, we've put $320 million of investment into that. The $300 million is completed and on the ground and done. There's still another 20 that we already have under contract that'll get done this construction season when the weather breaks. But we've moved the needle on those roads from the high 60% good to over 83% good. Actually, our minor roads now are in better shape than our middle tier of roads, but those are going to take some effort to keep them there. And so we've had a conversation, I know, about kind of what does that look like and what needs to happen in that arena. But huge sea change in that due to the effort of your committee. So thank you for that too. And I think with that, that is what I wanted to highlight for you, and we can answer any questions or jump into the.
Yeah, right before we jump in, I had somebody talk to me about this here recently, and you brought it up in yours, litter on the road and how quick you clean it today and tomorrow you don't know it. I own property on a highway, I understand that. And the Ag Center at school, we try to keep it clean, and it was a daily activity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, where my hometown is at, where I live, and I believe there's I don't know whether it's contract, what it is, with Department of Corrections. There are crews that come out of our Department of Correction facility in Chillicothe that help work on roads around there on this, from mowing to trash pickup, and I think they even cut some brush and stuff like that, take care of flowers once in a while. What does that look like around the state? Has there, for one reason or another, been a reduction in being able to partner with Department of Corrections? And can you point a finger, if there has been a reduction, can you point a finger at why?
Yes, so we still have a partnership with the Department of Corrections, but the amount of inmates that are made available to us has been reduced by, I'm going to say, 70%. It kind of started with COVID, where everybody, we didn't do any of that. But now there's so many fewer what they would call low-level offenders in these facilities that they're willing to let go do that. Okay. I think a lot of it has to do with changes in some of the laws on who goes to jail. So, for instance, in our Springfield district, we used to run like 8 crews a day out of some of the facilities down there. Now we run 1. So yes, that's another kind of brick in the wall there that has hurt us, because that was really good, cheap labor, and we don't get near as much of it.
I know we as a state stopped the Adopt a Highway, right, was the name of it. Is it time to see, and I think stop it wasn't necessarily what people were doing or unsafe. It was different signage, if I remember right, what people would put on sign. Is there a way to bring back that program in some form? Has the department thought about that or not?
We have, I think it was twofold. We looked at the value we were getting from Adopt a Highway, and certainly we had some like really dedicated people that did it. But for the most part, we would get maybe one pickup a year, and a lot of them didn't even do that. Now, that doesn't, the people that did it religiously, we
At the
appreciate.
beginning, everybody was excited about year 2 or
Yeah.
3 of it. Yeah.
And then, our here's the, I think the big reason we quit. We looked at it from a benefit cost ratio standpoint. It didn't really pan out. We were spending more money to manage it than we got from the litter picked up. But I think our biggest fear was, we looked at the behavior of people on the road and what our people were facing, and our people are professionals that have, big equipment and crash cushions and all that kind of stuff. And we just thought, you know what, it hasn't happened yet, but there's gonna be a time where a tractor trailer runs through a troop of Boy Scouts or something, and we just couldn't stomach that risk. So what we've done is we've actually put in place, and the contract is on the street, and it probably won't be as widespread as Adopt a Highway, but it's called Sponsor a Highway. And it really basically is businesses basically just pay to sponsor somebody to go pick up the litter, and it's a contractor that's a professional that has the right stuff. Now, will there be appetite for that on our lower volume roads where there's not as many eyeballs? Probably not. But it certainly is kind of a replacement for, we've been doing it in the urban areas for a few years now, and we get pretty good, they put up a sign and said, this is sponsored by my business, and they pay a significant amount of money to get it done. It's not like hundreds, it's thousands of dollars to have somebody come out and pick up litter once a month. So that's one of the things we're doing, and then of course, the 100 people that I mentioned earlier, our folks, that's the other thing we're needing to do. And then we continue to work with corrections to see if there's more that they can do. And we're seeing some increase, but it's not near what it was. And I don't think it ever will be.
Okay. Thank you. We can begin.
Good morning. I'm Brenda Morris. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for MoDOT, and we will start on page 60. My understanding was that you would like for me to go over the new decision items recommended by the governor and then a few other items. So we'll start on page 60. This is for the core administration appropriation. The department requested a little over $7 million. The governor recommended the same. This appropriation is needed to fully restore the appropriation and FTE authority for the state road fund that was reduced last session in anticipation of a newly created fund. That fund did not get created, and therefore we need the appropriation authority restored. Next page is page 120. The department requested $388.6 million. The governor recommended the same. This appropriation is needed to fully restore the appropriation and FTE authority for the state road fund that was reduced last session for the program delivery category. So the next pages are pages 194 through 290. They are what we refer to as those legislatively designated and funded projects. I can go over each one of those. While the governor did not recommend them in House Bill 4, he did move them to House Bill 17, with the exception of the Kirbyville School District, which will be fully expended this fiscal year. Would you like me to go through each one, or are you good just moving on?
Wait just a minute. Kirbyville will be completed this year,
Correct.
so it's not on any form of hold. The others were all transferred to 17.
Correct.
And out of them, 100% of those were withheld? Is there
I-
any that you can easily say, no, committee, these projects were not withheld?
Restricted, moved, restricted, moved, restricted, 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 restricted.
They're all restricted, aren't they?
All of these are restricted.
All
They're
restricted.
They're all restricted, not vetoed, but restricted.
Okay, and that gets us through page what?
To 90.
Highway 76
then-
in Branson, expansion's the last one. Right before safety and operations.
Correct.
Okay, I don't see anybody interested in asking questions on any of those, so let's,
So we'll go to page 309. The department requested 117.5 million. The governor recommended the same. This is for the Safety and Operations Corps. This appropriation is needed to fully restore the appropriation and FT authority for the state road fund that was reduced last session. Next page is page 335. The department requested just under 8.4 million and 100 FTE. The governor recommended just a little over 4 million and 50 FTE. This is the expansion item that Director Hassinger mentioned. These would be additional maintenance positions. These positions are requested to meet customer expectations for those activities such as litter pickup, mowing, trimming, pavement repair, striping, and signing.
okay, my questions on that, all those you can probably answer before I even ask them. All right. Go through the vacancies currently within safety and operations today. What are the vacancy and FTE compared to what we have budgeted now? My silly question makes sense to you, right?
Yep,
Oh, yeah.
yep. I just got to find my report.
And then, you know, the follow-up question is going to be, after you give me those vacancies, when we add 50, and the director's already talked about it a little bit, but how far are we going to go during the next fiscal year getting some of those vacancies filled?
Yep.
So this was as of the end of December,
Okay?
and of those maintenance worker type positions, we had 119 vacancies.
So that is a lot better than 2 or 3 years
We
ago
were-
when you were.
Absolutely.
We were
Sitting.
350 or more.
So, as of the end of December, 119 vacancies. Do you think we're plus in the last 2 months? Just guess.
Yes.
I'm not going to fact check you.
The net
Just
gain for
guess.
the past for January and February, the net gain was 3, and I know that many of the positions filled were in the maintenance section,
So
based upon what people were saying.
I'm going to say 160 vacancies if we add these 50 the governor, 260 if we add what the department has thought about. Recruiting and stuff still going good. Out of those, can you give me a wag of how many of those 160 or 260 might be filled a year from now when we're sitting here?
Yeah, I think by July of this year, which is the budget from
Yes.
last year, I think we'll be within 30 vacancies of that budget. And then, of course, this would be 50 for the next year. We're hiring a lot of people, and we're still churning people. Our biggest problem is, just for instance, last year, we hired 700.
CDLs is your problem.
CDLs.
It is a piece of it.
It is a piece of it, because we
Train
get
somebody and then go get a lot better
people,
job.
then they go get a better job. But we're still net positive for the year, but we hired 700 people last year, and we lost 650. So we had to hire 700 people to get a net gain of 50. That's just the world we live in. And I think certainly being competitive, I think if, the economy will, we're a better harbor in bad times than good times. So we'll see how that pans out. But I think we're on track that month over month, we are gaining, like this month, I think we're going to gain probably 30 is kind of what we're thinking. We've hired quite a few people this month, and so I think we're on the right path.
Okay. Senator May.
Good morning, Director. How are you?
Good morning.
My question, so I'm looking at this, on the page that we're on, the 330, are we on 335, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so it says this item is for expansion of 100 additional positions in maintenance.
Mhm.
Okay. And so where are we hiring these individuals? Where are they, stationed, where they work, and where are we hiring them?
So these are split up around the entire state. So we have 7 districts. Certainly, all of them have the same challenge. So it's not like these are huge windfalls of people in any given district. So for the district that you're in, St. Louis will probably get, if we did 100, they'll probably get 12 or 15 of those people, and we'll put those in the maintenance barns where we most need them around St. Louis.
Okay. And so, so how are we paying them? Did we ever change are we paying them just once a month?
We pay them twice a month.
So you pay bi-weekly?
Biweekly,
Okay.
No, twice a month.
twice a month.
The 15th and the 30th,
Yeah.
instead of
Yes.
every 2 weeks.
Yeah, 15th and the 1st. Right.
Okay.
31st.
So, I think that has a lot to do with retention.
It does.
Yeah. And so we tried to change that several times. I know I had to sponsor the bill, Burns Getter sponsored the bill. I don't know why the state, we got new systems. I don't understand why we can't pay every 2 weeks.
And we do.
But
I mean,
my
Twice a month.
understanding is that with the implementation of movers, the last I heard, that we will be going to being paid every 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
But it is more of a Office of Administration, State of Missouri decision
Oh,
versus
absolutely.
MoDOT.
Yes, I understand that. And I've been trying to do this since I was in the House. And I've been here 16 years, and I think it's ridiculous. But that's just me. Thank you.
Well, I thought I'd wait till the end, but you brought up that special acronym while you were speaking.
Sorry.
I probably don't need to, no, you don't need to be sorry. I probably don't need to remind you what that acronym is, but you referenced movers there on the pay, and that bill did pass the legislature how long ago? It's not been too long ago. Do this. You discuss movers in that context, so I want you to tell us again on the microphone about the goal with movers there. Then I have referenced information that MoDOT also had some concern about movers and meeting federal standards to be able to pull money down. I think that's as simple as I can say it. You may be able to complicate it more than that. But there was concerns about that, so I would like for you to reference both. Senator May explain what we're waiting on movers, what phase you folks believe that will be in. Of course, not the phase we're in now. But and then the second one, where's the department on working with movers leadership on making sure that we don't take a chance of losing some of our federal funds because our system doesn't match their requirements.
Absolutely. So MoDOT, from the very beginning, established an implementation team for movers. We recognize that it's a huge instance, and so we have made ourselves available and partnered with Office of Administration while Office Administration is the lead on that project, we have dedicated employees or resources to help move that forward. Certainly, it has been a bumpy ride, and from the very get-go in the RFP, it was a requirement of the system that there is a module to ensure that we can bill the federal government for transportation projects and receive the reimbursement. We have been working through that for some time. That portion of the project would be implemented as part of the financial phase, which I believe is phase 2, which was the phase that was going to be implemented July 1 of this year. We were getting very, very concerned because that particular module had not been tested and proved out, and it was going to come down to the wire, so we were very relieved to see the pause, to be able to take the time to make sure that module works. We continue to work on that. We are working with our partners at Federal Highway to ensure they can sign off on it and that they agree that the system meets those requirements. So we are doing everything we can to ensure a successful implementation, and have continued to work on that.
Currently, the system that MoDOT uses, is it in-house, inside MoDOT, or is it OAITSD?
We actually use the state SAM2 system,
Okay.
the system that the rest of the state government uses. We do have other shadow systems, they refer to them as shadow systems, that are
Yeah, that's-
internal, that
In government, that's, yeah.
yeah, well, that they interface with
Yes.
SAM2 that we maintain, and it is maintained by our IT group.
Okay.
All right.
Continue.
Next page will be page 342. The department requested $2.9 million. The governor recommended the same. This expansion item is needed for asphalt and concrete repairs on roadways in accordance with district work plans, as well as some support tasks for the World Cup, roadside management activities, and safety measures. This would be an increase to the safety and operations E&E. Next page is page 348. So this is another one of those. This is the low-volume routes money for fiscal year '26. The department requested $20 million. The governor recommended moving this to House Bill 17 and reducing it, I think, by around $24,000 for expenditures already made.
Okay, so this is the final of, at one time it was near 100, right? And
Correct.
we've been spending this down.
This is the
No.
20 million you
The
appropriated last year,
Okay,
and we've already got it all under contract. It's just we didn't want to pinch the contractors to say you had to be done by July 1, because we get much better prices if we give them the full construction season. So this is the last appropriation of general revenue that you all made. It'll be completed by November.
and I won't in the future find that any of our road funds are gonna go to any of the remaining projects. Would that, can you answer that, yes or no, or do I need to ask that more directly?
If road fund money,
If road fund money, so when I buy gas, man, it seems like I buy a lot of it when you're running around 19 counties. But none of those fee dollars that I'm paying, that I don't ask for back, will end up on low-volume roads. We'll be at the same spot unless it's emergency type stuff.
well, and we still spend
Yeah, that's right.
our operations money to maintain those. So for the most part, we spend safety and operations money on low-volume roads because they're not eligible for federal match. And so that's when our maintenance folks take care of it, and in a way that people weren't too satisfied with, to be quite honest with you. So we will continue to do the maintenance work, and I think when we talked the other day, I said, probably going forward, maintaining the level that we have them at will be a combination of our maintenance forces doing things like chip seals to stretch the life of what we've done. We probably need to do a little bit of that by contract, but probably to spend a lot of money on more 1-inch overlays in the future probably becomes a lot more problematic because of the fact that we can't ask for federal reimbursement for those. But that'll be a function of budget and how much, demand there is. So not to say there won't be any, but there will be less.
Thank you.
Next page is page 359. This is for safety and ops grants expansion. The department requested $1 million. The governor recommended the same. This expansion item is needed because the federal funding for highway safety programs is increasing. So this is the regular formula funding we receive for those highway safety type grants.
Okay, I forgot to ask a question that I talked about yesterday in my office, not with you guys, but as we were getting ready. We know that I think about low-volume roads before I think about World Cup, where I'm at, although World Cup's close, and we know they're going to visit Chillicothe, the home of sliced bread, et cetera, et cetera. But on page 342, when you talked about, what was it, $2 million some dollars, and again, we don't want to get real wound up in the dollar amount, but if I read it, I would probably figure it out, but what are some stuff that MoDOT's going to have to take care of, asphalt pavement? What's some expectations that we're going to do for MoDOT, by MoDOT to prepare for World Cup yet?
So I think it really comes down to basically three things. The first one is we're going to spend a lot more time and effort cleaning things up, getting ready, right? So we're doing that as we speak, cutting brush, cleaning up trash.
Yeah, we see that
getting
driving
debris
through.
removed. That's kind of getting the, living room ready for company. And then the second piece is certainly we want a little bit of ability to do some more repairs than what we have in our current plan, just to kind of make sure things are in good shape. And then really when the World Cup actually comes to town, most of what we're going to be doing, we're kind of a secondary player in this. Our role is to make sure that the interstates and the major roads move traffic. And so we're going to move some of our resources, like from St. Louis, our motorist assist operators. We're going to move some people to Kansas City to be kind of the folks in our war rooms that are watching traffic and doing that kind of stuff, because we think we're going to probably have to do that at a higher pace than normal. Our emergency response folks, we want them to be available probably more hours of the day, overnight, weekends and stuff like that. So it's kind of those three things: get ready, make sure we have roads in good condition, and then operate for the 6 weeks. Those are kind of the three things that we need the money for.
Okay, the other, while you were discussing that, made me think, do you believe MoDOT's going to be involved in traffic movement? Do you think Kansas City PD, Independence PD, State Highway Patrol are going to want your trucks and stuff helping direct people and blocking things off and stuff? Are you going to be put into that place
We
as well?
probably will. We're having weekly meetings
Okay.
with the
Those
groups.
decisions haven't been made yet,
But-
but
but
more
we're
than
gonna-
likely, you're going to be doing more than keeping people moving. You may be directing them as well.
Probably not directing traffic, but we will be
Wow.
trying to manage incidents and make sure that, during events that they may want to move traffic in different ways. We probably will be doing some of that. And those are the things we're working on as we speak.
Thank you.
Next page is page 373. The department requested $3 million. The governor recommended the same. This is for the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program. This expansion item is needed to change the process of how we pass through these Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program funds to the State Highway Patrol in anticipation for the implementation of movers. Currently, the money goes directly to them. The new system won't allow for that, so we have to physically receive the money and then disperse it. But to be able to do that, we need the appropriation authority to be able to do that. Next page is page 394. The department requested $3 million. The governor recommended the same. This is for fleet facilities and information systems. It's an inflationary, it is to cover a portion of the inflationary cost associated with our fleet. The last fleet acquisition budget increase was in fiscal year 2024. Fleet prices have increased an average of 20% since 2025.
My question, I didn't realize, I probably read it, it's in the first line down below there, 2024 was the last inflationary increase.
Correct.
What's it like receiving equipment now? And I guess this probably doesn't have it in my business, but
Yeah.
trucks are still slow, are they faster, what equipment's getting to you quicker, et cetera? And I guess the final question, any chance DEF's going to be gone in the next few years? But go ahead.
Well, Ed looks at this one way. He mentioned the other day, he says, we must be getting more trucks in because,
Because I see the old trucks sitting on the salvage lots as I drive around. But the supply chain is still slow. Better than it was 2 years ago, but we still have a backlog of trucks. Tariffs is affecting the cost of heavy fleet to a really big degree. Most of these heavy trucks are made in Canada and Mexico, and we're talking about, $15,000 increases in the cost of a truck year over year. This doesn't anywhere come close to covering the cost. This is all I thought we could afford without taking it from somewhere else. So, but yeah, it's kind of still a tough deal. DEF isn't going away. Eric and I were talking this morning, these manufacturers still have to manufacture trucks for the global market, and that's kind of just the demand. Our trucks are way more capable than they've ever been, but they do come with some headaches of managing those with those kind of systems on them. And the biggest thing is they're just more expensive, and they're getting a lot more expensive. Tandem axle dump truck fully outfitted, $300,000. I mean, that's just nuts, but that's what they cost.
Remember how old I am. You shouldn't be buying a cheap pickup and it costs you $60,000 to pull a trailer with on farms. Stupid. So,
Exactly.
okay. That's
Next.
all good news too.
next page is page 419. This is for our multimodal ops admin E&E. The department requested a little over $23,000. The governor recommended the same. In fiscal year 2025, 2 additional FTEs were approved. This is the E&E that is needed for those 2 FTEs. Next page is page 442. This is another item that got moved to House Bill 17. It is not restricted, and it is $1 million for Kansas City World Cup Transit. Next page is page 508.
Let's stop a minute so I can
Nope, 493.
look at that. It's not your fault that I looked it
Neither
over.
is-
It was moved. expansion accommodates expanded public transit services, so it's extra money for the FIFA to be able to move people in mass transit. Does that
Buses, mass transit, really the money goes to them. We don't really have much to say about what they do with it. But what they're gonna
we're
do is
hoping they
they're gonna
lease
rent-
some more
they're gonna
buses
rent
and stuff.
buses is
Well,
what they're gonna do.
actually, this money is going to be used for an ambassador program to direct people on how to get to which buses and to be, to help move people. You know, there's going to be
I thought
language.
everything like that was done on an app now.
Well, there will be people on the ground directing people on which buses to get on, and you need to go 2 blocks this way and take a left to get to your hotel, those types of things. But
Okay.
but it is to direct people that are getting on and off of the buses to get them to where they need to be.
Good. That'll make us more welcoming. Great. Yes.
Sorry, and I hate to back up a little bit, but I'm just trying to wrap my brain around the cuts to the core transit as well. So if we back up to 436, I know you mentioned this, Director, in your opening comments in terms of the $5 million cut here, but last year we also cut from FY25, right? Essentially 5 million. And so this is just like looking at page 441, you had mentioned that some of the rural areas are going to be hardest hit here with these cuts. And I imagine last year was fairly, I mean, I remember hearing from our area, KCATA, and what a big impact that was in cutting services already. Folks are saying that they've got fewer options to be able to get to work. And I mean, that's just a fact as we're starting to see this. So tell us a little bit more just about how the rural areas are going to be impacted, as well as our larger urban areas.
Yeah, so 2 years ago, it was about 11 million
Yeah.
of money for this item.
And had we done that for a few, I mean, I only have the previous, 3 or 4 fiscal years here, but yeah, it looks like we had been at
We'd been around
24, yeah, we were at 11.4, 25, 11.4, 23, 8.5, but significant.
11 was one of the high water marks. That
Okay.
hadn't been that big for a while. And so,
So prior to 2023, there were several years that transit received 0 general revenue. Starting in 2023, they received 7 million, 2024, 10 million, 2025, 10 million.
Okay,
yeah, and I think there's a formula that this money gets distributed to transit agencies based basically on their ridership and size. So the big ones, Metro, KCATA, get a lot of that money. But the rural transit, they are really more heavily dependent on it, I would say. It's a bigger chunk of their total budget. So the hit to them, I think, is probably more impactful. And like I said, most of these transit agencies, and we don't dictate how they do that, but what most of them do is they take the state transit assistance and they use it to match the federal programs. And so they basically multiply that by 4. And so that's where it becomes a lot bigger deal. And when I talked about earlier, when you go through the formula, there's some small transit agency in rural Missouri that might get $100,000. Well, that's probably buying 2 small buses or 2 small vans every few years. But what they do with that is they match federal funds with it and they buy 4, right? Or they pay for the operators that run those buses. And so when they don't have that money, they've got to do something. They don't have there really isn't another source of revenue for them. They're not going to go to their county and say, hey, give me another $100,000 for transit. So what they're going to do is they're going to cut service. Right now we're probably pretty rare in the country that every county in Missouri has some form of public transit. Now some of those are 1 day a week or 3 days a week, but they have some form of it. I would say that some of these counties will not have public transit.
They won't have any after this.
That could happen. And at least the ones that have it on a daily basis probably will have to reduce service. And that'll be a agency by agency decision that we don't really dictate, but you can see the writing on the wall here, that that's what's gonna happen. Unless they find some other local source of revenue to replace this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you stated there's a formula around this because, as we know, Senator Nuremberg and I represent two different areas. A majority, and that's not the right word to use, but a fairly large amount of that money goes to urban transit systems that somebody where I live at believe that they have funding sources to help cover. So there's not a way for, if I wanted to jump over them and send that to rural counties. You know, if we reduce this by half, and then I say, we're not going to send it blank, 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 but we're going to send it blank. I don't have the authority to do that.
This is distributed by rural. There's a CSR that it gets distributed by.
Yeah.
So you'd have to change the CSR. You
That's-
could, you could.
Well, I stated that on the microphone because of what had been said with this, to try to save transportation of those people in those low volume areas with not the revenue sources. It can't be done simply. It would take years to be able to get that changed, right? Take years, more than likely.
I would probably agree with that. And our transit agencies pretty much agree with this process.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get people calling you either. Everybody listening, I'm not wanting anybody to call. I just wanted to bring that up, that saving one, jumping over another is not an option.
Yeah, probably not.
Next page is page 493. I just wanted to point out, this is a $3 million for a transit mobility pilot. We anticipate expending all of this money this fiscal year, so this didn't need to be reapproved. Next page is page 508. The department requested a little over 2.4 million. The governor recommended 573,000. This is the state match for Amtrak. This increase, there was two parts of it. A portion of it was to provide a third trip for the World Cup, and the remainder would be used for inflation. Now that we know the dates of when the third train is going to run for World Cup, and based upon how Amtrak does their billing, we anticipate that the majority of the World Cup costs would be paid in fiscal year '26, with the remainder being paid from this money, and if this gets appropriated, the rest of it would be used for inflationary cost.
Restate that again. I think I 100% understood it, but I want
There
to
are-
make sure the money for the third train,
Correct?
26 budget, is going to cover the budget that we're in now, primarily is going to cover it.
Correct.
There will be some cost after that. The
Potentially.
573 will cover the match on the train for the third train, and a little bit you said for inflationary to Amtrak for our.
Correct.
Or normal.
Just
service.
normal service. So with the normal.
So this number in front of us we've went far enough since you started this in August or September, putting
Correct.
this together, that this number is a pretty accurate number that's not going to cause crisis going from 3 to 573.
Yes. I think
Yeah,
that's right.
2.5,
Actually-
2.5, sorry.
Actually, we thought that maybe we'd run a third train for way more days, and in consultation with Union Pacific, they're not willing to run trains more than about a few days prior to and after these matches. So this is going to cover us. I think we're good.
All right. The next pages are, we're back to some of what we refer to as General Assembly designated and funded projects. The next page is page 524. This has been moved to House Bill 17 and it was restricted. The next page is page 535. This is for the Monette Airport. It has been moved to House Bill 17. It is not restricted. The next page is page 539. This is for the Branson Airport Road. This was moved to House Bill 17, and the amount has been reduced to $200,000. The project has 2 phases. The first phase is done. We're just waiting for a funding agreement to be signed to pay out the first $1.8 million, and the rest would be for the rest of the work. Next page is page 543. This is $7 million for the St. Louis Lambert Airport. It's been moved to House Bill 17, but it is restricted. The next page is page 547. This is for the Perryville Airport, $3.7 million, moved to House Bill 17. It is restricted. The next item is Farmington Airport on page 551. This $2 million has been moved to House Bill 17, and this project is restricted. That covers the NDIs. You had a few other items that you wanted to point out. On page 187, we have 4 appropriations that have been reduced for actual expenditures. Those were the only reductions to appropriations. It is the cost share on page 187. Well, let's try 184.
184.
Yeah, 184. Okay. And this one was reduced for actual expenditures, and this can actually be zeroed out for fiscal year 27 because all the monies have been expended. The Jefferson Avenue footbridge on page 189. This was originally $8 million. It's been reduced over time for actual expenditures. The next one is page, under the Federal Aviation Assistance. So it's going to be 555. There was 300,000 that was reduced, and also for ARPA, it was reduced. So there were 2 reductions there. The 300,000 was for another one-time.
MoDOT
Source.
ARPA money, all
Correct.
going to be.
Correct, MoDOT ARPA money.
Will that, you guys expect it to all be expended easily by December 31's our deadline, right?
I think the aviation is already done. Transit, we still have a little bit in transit, but I think we have a
But
little.
it won't be.
I don't
it-
think we have any problems meeting any deadlines there.
Okay. Any other, I believe that that's the only money with those kind of deadlines going back to coronavirus within MoDOT. Are
Correct.
there any other funds that come down sometime through that emergency that MoDOT has a deadline in that? Only these dollars?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we're good on all that deadline money.
We have no transfers. And then the other item that you had asked about was core reallocations. As we do every year, we did a job title reallocation based upon the actual job titles that we have. And then there were a variety of reallocations based upon historical expenditures, and that is at the budget account class. That's the new terminology, which is the old budget object class. So those are pretty standard. It's just matching the budget to where we actually expend the money. Yeah. And that completes the items that I was aware that you wanted us to present today.
Does anybody else have any questions? No? Anything else? DSS tomorrow. Well, one announcement before we gavel out. Department of Social Services will be who we will be hearing from tomorrow. We certainly thank you folks for being here this morning and help us through this. With that, Appropriations Committee is adjourned.